People who did it with their best friend. What is the situation now? Story 1. Let me paint a picture before describing the incident. This was back in high school, freshman year. I was a geeky young kid, and there was this pretty hot classmate of mine who loved chocolate. I don't know why I did this, but when I heard she likes this particular chocolate, I thought about her when I was walking past this particular chocolate that she likes. So I got one and gave it to her the next day. She was pretty and hot. I mean, most girls are when you're a young geeky kid with not many friends and being bullied on the daily. Anyway, she appreciated the gesture, and we became good friends throughout high school. During our senior year, she told me that she would like to take my V card. She was a promiscuous girl, so she'd already been. I scoffed at it, thinking she was joking because, we are good friends, so jokes such as this from the opposite gender are quite common. During my freshman college year, she texted me and told me that she's in town and would like to catch up. Not thinking about much, I picked her up, and we had lunch. She asked if she could visit my place, which we did. We played video games and just hung out. And then the next thing I knew, she was nibbling on my ear, and boy oh boy, it was a great but short first experience. I mean, it was impossible not to finish early, as this was all new to me. She showed me the way, and we did it 2 more times after that, and that was it. We are still friends to this day, but we all have our own families now. We greet each other during our birthdays. But that's about it. Honestly, would I do it again? No, not really. The dynamic of the friendship changed after that. I was longing for more fun time because I was lonely. But she's got her own priorities, and it wasn't worth fighting over something that neither of us can commit to. Do I regret it? No, not at all. It was a great time, and it's usually a great experience if one of the two knows what they're doing or what they want and what not to do. The funniest memory I can share without being explicit is that when she gave me the business, she said to tell her when I was about to arrive, not to try not to arrive. I guess she knew I wouldn't last as long being a geek and all. Before we continue, do us a quick favor, smash that like button and subscribe to support our channel. Story 2. We didn't sleep together, but we had a pants-on play sesh and both came. It happened when we were both drunk. We had feelings for each other for a while. Neither of us thought the other felt the same. Then one night, we got drunk in his bedroom and talked all night. I got up to use the bathroom, and when I came back, I jumped onto him playfully. We started playing wrestling and tickling each other. Then we just stopped and cuddled. I turned to him and kissed his cheek, and he kissed me too. Next thing, we were full-on running into each other. The next day, I asked him if he just did it because he was drunk. He said, yeah, he was lying. He just said it because he thought I didn't like him back. Then, because he said, yeah, I just lied and said, same. I was really sad about it all. I never knew if he liked me back or not. Part of me didn't want to know because I didn't want to feel the disappointment if he didn't. Anyway, days later, because he thought I didn't like him back, he tried to move on with another girl. I got really jealous and avoided him. I know that sounds petty, but this happened when I was quite young. He ended up coming to me and asking me why I am avoiding him. I said I wasn't, but he knew I was lying. He ended up saying to me, you like me, don't you? I just looked away and shrugged. He then told me he liked me back and he had for ages. Then that night we went for a walk, and the whole night we were flirty and touching each other. We got together that night and are still together. We're married now with a very special daughter, and he makes the best girl dad. Story 3. We have been best friends since middle school. Went to semi-formals and prom together. She kicked away for a little while, and I saw her at a bar one night. We decided to hang out the rest of the night together, and we're just catching up and drinking. Eventually it was closing time, so we went back to her place, and she kept pursuing sleeping together, and I eventually gave in. The next morning she left before I woke up and wasn't replying to my calls or texts. Finally got back to me later, and claimed I took advantage of her, and we haven't spoken since. That was almost 20 years ago. 15 years after that happened, I met a dude at work, and we became friends. Somehow, it came up that we both slept with her, and she did the same thing to him. Sometime after that we found out she was bartending at this bar in town. We both started going there together on the night she was working just for the sake of making it extremely awkward for her to have to serve us. To make it even worse, we tipped very well. Story 4. It was turbulent for a while, but we're still friends. We slept together almost 4 years ago on her birthday when we were both very drunk. After 8 years of being strictly platonic. I caught feelings and she didn't, and we did it a handful more times over the next couple of months before things fell apart. We were planning to go to a festival together and she wanted to meet up with a guy she had met online on a dating app. I considered it to be insensitive towards me, and when I expressed that, it led to a big fight. We didn't speak much for 5 months or so after that. She later reached out, and we met up, and she proposed introducing me to her new boyfriend, but I wasn't ready for that. Cue another fight, and another 9 months or so of not talking. It was a really painful time, losing both my best friend and someone I cared for romantically. We finally met up again a couple of months before I had to move away. She asked if I wanted to talk about what happened before, and I said nope, and so we didn't and never have since. We've been relatively normal since then, but not as close as we once were. I've met her boyfriend, and he's a nice guy who's really good for her. Story 5. We don't talk as much anymore. She has a boyfriend now, and I don't think he is entirely comfortable with having me around, understandably. I used to spend every day with her without ever imagining we were going to be some sort of friends with benefits. Just genuine friendship. But we grew so comfortable with each other, it just sort of happened. Like, why the heck not? Feelings for each other never occurred, so when she told me she met someone, I was happy for her. We stopped what we had been doing the last few years, and she stayed loyal to her new boyfriend. But when her new boyfriend heard that his girlfriend used to have an intimate relationship with her best friend me, things got really awkward. We talked it out, and there are no bad feelings anymore, but I miss the days when she was a bigger part of my life. It was never a confusing second between love and the genuine friendship we had. I remember we both, from time to time, brought up the fact that we are not doing this because you specifically are who I want. People have needs, and we were comfortable enough with each other to just exercise those needs. We were 19, active, and basically hung out every day. Though I didn't see it coming, I'm also not surprised. Story 6. She and I were close in middle and high school. She was one of those types of friends I thought I would have forever. She dated a couple of guys in high school who were complete jerkheads. After high school, she was dating one of them again after breaking up multiple times. They lasted a while, but she found out he cheated. She and I had been hanging out a lot since we got out of high school, and she was going into the military soon. I remember I had always had some type of feelings for her. While hanging out, I was alluding to hooking up with someone. She caught on instantly, and she eventually told me I could do whatever I wanted to her. She and I banged in the back of my car at a park near her house. We continued to do that for a bit until she left for basic training. Some time later, she married that jerkhead ex-boyfriend. It actually broke my heart because I wanted to be with her. They eventually divorced for reasons I won't go into, but I'm sure you can imagine. She came back to visit friends and family while on leave. We banged in that same car at that same park after hanging out. She dated a couple of guys after that and is now married to what seems to be a really great man. At least I can tell because she looks happier than she's ever been. I don't speak to her much at all anymore, and when I do, she doesn't seem like she wants to. It makes me sad because she could possibly be the one that got away. Story 7. We've been best friends for like 12 years, and I'm basically the aunt to her kids. We were in our late teens when we had a three-way with her then boyfriend. She was figuring out that she was bi and wanted to be with a girl. She had a bit of a thing for me, and I thought she was really pretty, so I was like, hey, I'm down. Sadly, that dude didn't respect my boundaries during said three-way and left me with some trauma to work through. But luckily, she also realized he was abusive and left him like 10 years ago. Kids are not with him. To this day, we sometimes randomly remember that we slept together and laugh about it because it feels like it was literally a different life. It's the butt of jokes sometimes too. She'll forget to close the door when peeing, and I'll be like, girl, there's nothing I haven't seen before. Oh, right. We kinda wish we were gay for each other because we'd probably be a great couple, but we're too close friends now, and it would be weird. Still considering maybe living together platonically with her kiddos when they're older. We'll see. Story 8. So for context, when my best friend and his wife started dating, he got drunk and cheated on her with 2 others at a party. Anyways, I'm not entirely sure when she found out or why she stayed with him, but it clearly ate away at her a bit. After they had gotten married, she wanted to even things out, so they decided they would have a three-way with a person of her choice. She chose me, so I ended up having a three-way with my best friend and his wife. After that, our friendship group went through a phase of being a bit more adventurous with each other, but things seem to have settled down a bit with people getting older and looking towards the kind of future life they want to have. Most people are still friends, although one or two guys did get ostracized for being a bit too titillated. As for my best friend, his wife and I, specifically, we are still the same as before, maybe slightly closer. Hookup jokes sometimes get made, but I think there is an underlying understanding that they are just jokes now. Story 9. We worked together, became friends, had a similar friends group because of the work, talked regularly, and were always happy to see each other. We lived around 2 hours apart. When we were together, people thought we were in a relationship because we were so into each other. 2 years went by, and both of us went to work for a season in a mountain area, so we met each other more often, and on one drunken night, we hooked up. Afterwards it was a bit awkward, but after 2 weeks of no talking, we went back to our normal state. But she joked that from now on, when people asked us if we were a couple, we were just best friends, who know each other even in bed. Again, 1 or 2 years later, she gave me a late-night call to visit her hometown because the restaurant she worked for needed some stuff around Christmas and New Year's Eve. So I just packed my things, drove there the next morning, and wanted to help for this time, but I did a great job, so I got a contract and a place to live. While working there, we talked to each other daily, saw each other every day, and went to parties and went swimming in our free time. We were just the best friends couple like we used to be, but now it was closer, and for both of us it was more like a real relationship, without the deed or kissing. A few months went by and we went partying. She got pretty drunk and told me she likes me more than just as a friend and I should kiss her. So we had a wonderful night and talked so much about this and decided we want to try it, but the next day everything was absolutely weird. She started to get out of my way. I just got short answers and I got a little bit lost and angry, so we were like co-workers who can't stand each other but had to work together. I worked there for 3 more months, then packed my stuff and went home to my hometown. The day I drove home, she wrote to me in tears that she regrets everything, that she was too scared of us being a couple because she thought it would not work out and we would lose each other as friends. Since then, I tried to stay in contact with her, but for 2 years we haven't even greeted each other on birthdays anymore. I know she's in a relationship and lives with her boyfriend, like I do with my girl. I don't know how she is, or if we could ever be friends again, but I wish her the best, no hard feelings. I miss this girl, because I miss talking to someone so freely. It was so different to talk to someone that you don't have to impress, or that you will get judged for your decisions with my current girlfriend. I also talk relatively freely, but it doesn't feel the same, so I don't say everything I think or tell her some stories of my past. All this was from 2014 to 2019, and I still think about all of this and still wish that we had tried it. I am so in love with my current girlfriend, but this one person that I used to call my best friend always has a special place in my heart, and I hope she will do great in life, and I will always love her. It breaks my heart, but life must go on. And these are the kinds of stories you can tell your grandkids one day. Story 10. So, for me, it actually happened twice, and each time it ended differently. The first time, we were best friends in early high school for a few years, and we decided to try a relationship. It ended with me being ghosted the whole summer vacation because she was afraid that the relationship would hurt our friendship. Talk about a self-fulfilling prophecy. After that, she tried to reconnect, but I declined, and we stopped talking after a while. The second time was with a very close friend in late high school. We grew close and became best friends, and then started a relationship. Now we're going 6 years strong. Story 11. It was decades ago. As youngsters in a small town with not many people in a very rural area, there weren't a lot of opportunities to make friends. At about 8 years old, I was crawfishing in the local park and found someone in my favorite spot. Of course, being about the same age, we struck up a friendship. It was several years of bliss, having fun just being two wild, feral kids in the woods, until the ugly monster of puberty started to make things awkward. It was on one of our excursions on horseback that it happened. My pants began to get really tight. She noticed me squirming behind her as we were riding double on her horse to give mine a break, and asked, point blank, "Is your dong getting hard?" Well, I was flabbergasted. She said, "Well, let's fix that," and took us off the trail away. Then, ever the practical country girl, she proceeded to take charge and blew my mind. She knew what and how to relieve the stress. We stayed best friends and partners for many years throughout school. After graduation, we slowly drifted apart into our own lives. We occasionally bump into each other and swap stories like old war buddies. But nothing ever happened since high school decades ago. Story 12. Planned it ahead. With her we lived together and agreed we would be terrible as a couple, but we had good chemistry. It was always meant to be a romantic. Otherwise, it was meant to stop, per the boundaries we laid out in advance. We were super close, and I could adapt my work anywhere I needed to, so we moved halfway across the country to support goals she had. Turns out she had admitted to friends that she had feelings all along and had planned the move to isolate me from other friends, so I needed to spend more time with her and kind of trap me. That friend she had confided in only warned me once. My friend said she was going to stop her birth control without telling me, so I was trapped with a kid involved. I said that all the manipulation was unacceptable and I was moving out. She went through the typical Darvo tactics. It destroyed the friendship. I had to move interstate again. We had 2 dogs together, each got one. I gave her multiple chances to see the one that went with me. She denied me ever seeing the other one again. Got some trust issues out of it, but I am working past that and hoping to start dating again soon. Story 13. We were classmates at university. One night, we were drinking and my friend was trying to convince her to cuddle. She wasn't into it, so I said, "Just come sleep with me." Well, we started kissing and bam, it happened. Then we decided we both kind of had crushes on each other, so we decided to date. Well, it didn't really work. We were in the process of graduating and had different priorities. We ended up working together occasionally for about a year. After that, she moved. She got married. I got married. In 2023, I got divorced and tried the dating apps. I saw her on Tinder. Oh, cute. Did we reconcile, and are we happy now? No, I blocked her. Story 14. We met through a group of friends, and our relationship slowly grew from acquaintances to best friends. When I first met my wife, it was at a pool party. She was holding this huge baby, and I was like, nope. A few months went by, and I saw her at another party, asked her where the baby was, and she was confused. It turns out it was our mutual friend's brother's baby. My wife just loves babies. Anyway, we just naturally started talking whenever we saw each other. It was easy. Being around her felt effortless. Over the years, we both dated other people, but our friendship kept growing. I had one serious relationship that lasted a few years, and after that ended, I didn't want to jump into anything serious. I went through a bit of a player phase. During that time, my future wife started catching feelings for me, as we hung out more and more. Eventually, I noticed it, and that led to us sleeping together. From there, our dynamic shifted into more of a friends with benefits situation. We probably could have started dating much earlier, but I was scared of ruining what we had. I kept thinking, what if we break up? What if it ends badly? I didn't want to risk losing, not just a potential partner, but one of my closest friends. We went on a trip to Cancun together, had a serious talk, and agreed to take some space. We didn't speak until the following week, when we ended up at the same party. That night, I told her I couldn't do it anymore. I missed her. We got together that night. Funny enough, the party was also a bachelor party for one of our friends, so I went out clubbing. She picked me up afterward since I was drunk, and we went back to her place. That night I told her I loved her. The next morning, she asked, "Do you remember what you said to me last night when you were drunk?" I looked her dead in the eyes and said, "I'll say it again, I love you." She said it back though, a little hesitantly. I smiled and said, "First night with you as my girlfriend and you take me to a dance club without getting mad about it? Yeah, this is gonna be great." In July 1st, we will have been married for 8 years. We have 2 kids, a 6-year-old boy and a 4-year-old girl. We moved out of state and have a mortgage in her hometown. Story 15. She actually dated 2 of my close friends during high school. I made friends with her because I was with at least one of those male friends almost every single day, and so was she. The first guy had to end things with her because her cop mother forbade them from being together after witnessing the act. He moved on quickly. The second guy ended up dating her from 10th to 12th grade. I got to know her very well, and our personalities just clicked. I had often thought I felt some tension but never pursued anything because of bro code, and also because I was still pretty shy and self-conscious. High school ends, and the second guy ends their relationship. I also ended my friendship with him, as he did some unforgivable things to me. He was also starting to go down the path of hard drugs, and the negative effects were already starting to show on him. The girl and I remained friends throughout all of this. She was afraid we'd stop seeing each other, because she thought I'd take my guy friend's side. I told her what happened, and that he was no longer my friend. After the breakup, we continued to hang out with other friends. Only this time, she started to show her true feelings towards me, and I broke out of my shell and followed suit. About a month later, she called me saying her parents were gone for the weekend and she had a bottle of vodka. They asked if I wanted to hang out, and I obliged. I honestly thought it was going to be like any other night with her, but one thing turned into another, and we got sloppy drunk and had a sloppy fun time. She drove to my house. We lived in the same neighborhood. Ironically, the next day, to give me a t-shirt, I left at her house and awkwardly asked if it really happened. I confirmed it did. She seemed embarrassed, and I said, "Hey, as far as I'm concerned, this changes nothing between us. No reason why we can't still be friends." Throughout the next 5 years, she was a consistent friend and turned into a pretty regular bang buddy. I loved her but wasn't in love with her. One night, I stayed at her house, and after we tangoed, she said she always envisioned herself marrying me someday. I told her how my mom had made similar comments to me about her. I was really starting to fall for her at this point. About a week later, we went to a formal company Christmas party together. Men's Warehouse. We met and took pictures with the "you're going to like the way you look" guy. It was a great time. We looked amazing and danced, laughed, and kissed throughout the night. When it was time to leave, I said, "We're going back to your house, right?" No. I actually have to meet up with this guy that I agreed to go on a date with." "What the heck?" I was pissed, but more so really bummed out, and slightly embarrassed. She just told me she wanted to marry me a week ago. What the heck was going on? Well, not only did she ditch me for that guy, but she ended up marrying him a couple of years later. We got together one night just as friends, and she complained how he never showed any love to her, and they barely ever slept together. She insisted that we do the deed that night, and I said no. She had cheated on other boyfriends with me several times during our friendship, but I had met her husband and wasn't going to do that to him. She wasn't happy with me. She's still married to him, but is forcing a smile every day to get through it. We don't talk much anymore, but when we do, she initiates the conversation and tells me how much she loves and misses me. Oh well. Story 16. We were stupid teenagers when we met while working together and became besties pretty quickly. We witnessed each other's best and worst nonsense for nearly a decade. Somewhere in our late 20s, we confessed our love for one another out of nowhere while on a call. I lived in another city at the time, so he drove around 4 to 5 hours to see me. I was so nervous and excited when he got to my place that I kinda made him chase me around my apartment before we pounced on each other. We've been happily married for nearly 15 years, have a kid and 2 cats. Story 17. I live with her now, and we have a 13-year-old cat and a 5-month-old dog. It wasn't smooth sailing though, because we hooked up in 2019 and dated for a few months. I was getting over a previous relationship, so I felt I couldn't commit to a relationship and broke it off. I broke her heart, and she told me later that she was super depressed for about a year. In 2020, COVID happened, and we messaged back and forth a bit, but eventually ended up not talking for about a year. Then in 2021, I was moving cities to move back in with my parents, and she heard about it through a friend and messaged me. We hung out before I left, and that ended up with us hooking up again. After I moved cities, I was depressed and unemployed for about a year, and things didn't go anywhere. We were still friends and chatting a few times a week on FaceTime. She dated a couple of other guys at the time because I told her where I was in terms of wanting to be in a relationship. But in mid-2022, we both kind of realized around the same time that we should just date. She started to ask me out, and I cut her off and asked if she wanted to date me again. Moved in together in April 2023, and things haven't been better. It took a while, but I am so glad she stuck around and kept in touch with me. Story 18. He sent me a junk shot at 2 a.m. last night and asked if he could sleep over. He's never, in 8 years, slept over, nor have I spent the night with him, because all this time I'd been waiting for him to break up with his ex. Finally, last month, he broke up with her, but told me he wasn't sure it was the right thing to do. After 8 years of my waiting, he told me they were broken up and we started banging, which turned into a fully hidden relationship, one full of lies and promises, as he went on trips with her and posted pictures of them on social media, saying how much he loved her. I wouldn't have put up with this from anyone else. I wouldn't have stayed after finding out the truth if it were anyone else. But the fact that this is your best friend makes you do things that you would have never done for anyone else. You put up with so much because you trust them with your life, and you love them with your soul, and you don't believe that they could ever intentionally hurt you. And when you wake up one day and realize that they can, it's the biggest hurt you will ever feel. Because you realize that if you break up with them, you are losing your love, your life, and your best friend. 35 years lost. We have been best friends since we were 10 years old. Now I'm just lying in bed alone, crying. We are currently broken up, and here I am getting ready to call him this morning because I said I would. I will never love anyone the way I love him. It's the biggest, most painful, most intense, and most beautiful tragedy I've ever experienced in my whole life. That's where we are right at this moment. Story 19. We were best friends who met while traveling in Australia. Both female. We've been besties for a year. The last 3 months of living in Australia, we were on a big road trip, and things became kind of intense. I had a big crush on her, like I'd had on female friends before, but just kind of lived with it until she started to come on to me. Eventually, it all just kind of happened organically. We fell in love. I fell harder, but I think it was because I realized that I was gay, and so I became accepting of something within me I had been suppressing for many years. I left Australia. It was heartbreaking, but she was only out there for a month more before she was heading home herself. She decided to do one more little road trip with the guy she arranged to do the road trip with. I was home. I could feel something was very off. She got back, and basically she told me she loved me. But because I wasn't a dude, it wasn't going to work. Broke my heart. She'd also more or less been cheating with the guy. It took me forever to get over it. Lost my best friend and my first love. We tried to meet up and talk it out a bit after the dust had settled, but she had hurt me so badly it was just never the same. Even her best friends from home gave her a hard time for how she handled it. The happy ending, though, is that she did allow me to discover I'm gay. Now I am happily married to my wonderful wife. Story 20. We were best friends for years, we studied together, and at some point worked together. When we worked together, I got too big of a crush on her, we kissed one night, and everything got a bit awkward after that. Following that, I withdrew a bit and found something else to do. We still kept in touch, and still had many good evenings, 'cause we still knew each other incredibly well. After a couple of years, one of those evenings turned into another kiss. This time was initiated by her. We talked a lot that evening, and the following day, and eventually decided to give a relationship a chance. We were happy for a while, but never really as happy as when we were just friends. Ironically, eventually we broke up. Today I am happy, though alone. I haven't truly met someone since her, but I also really enjoy being alone. She met another guy, and they are moving in together. I'm super happy for them. We still talk and catch up every now and then, but less than ever. No had feelings and friendship intact, though less intense. Story 21. It wasn't sudden, but the culmination of a couple of years of gradual submission to knowing we were more than friends for each other. It was college, and we both had long-term significant others. Nobody wanted to hurt anybody, but there was no denying it. We were hooked on each other. It was obvious to everyone, but we couldn't do anything about it because of our pre-existing relationships. In our youthful ignorance, we put priority on what was expected of us, and tried to ignore our feelings, and instead stay with our relationship partners. As our other toxic relationships degraded, we supported each other through the breakups. It was pretty tough on each of us, and a big social challenge to navigate. It was hard. Eventually, everything fell into place. We had graduated, put some distance between ourselves and the toxic relationships that were holding us back, and started the life we wanted together. That was 15 years ago, and everything is perfect. We now have a cat, oh yeah, and married, with awesome kids. Story 22. We had been friends since 8th grade and became best friends around high school. We went to different schools but would talk on AM all day and night. We saw each other go through a couple of crappy relationships. I honestly think those relationships were bad, because whoever we were dating at the time thought there was something more between us. We became friends with benefits in college since we went to the same school and it was easier to spend time together. One night we were talking, and we came to the conclusion that we both wanted this to be a real thing, and that was that. We have been married for almost 6 years, and we have a son together. If I count the time we were friends with benefits, this year we have been 16 years. Sometimes it gets boring because since we've been together for so long, there's not much to talk about, but I wouldn't trade this. We both know everything about each other, our likes and dislikes, and because of that, things just flow more easily. Story 23. I started working with my best friend. We had messed around a bit in high school prior to this, but actual banging was never involved. Anyway, while working with her, I started to kind of dislike her. She was lazy, made excuses, and would often call off. One day, I had a get-together at my house and invited her over as well. At one point, she pulled me into the bathroom, and she started making out with me. I ended up picking her up and putting her on the bathroom counter, where we proceeded to bang each other. We ended up sleeping together 2 more times that same summer. It was always really spontaneous. I never finished any of the 3 times. It just never felt right. Eventually, she just became further and further from the person I knew in high school, and we just drifted apart. Story 24. For backstory, he's had a crush on me for our entire friendship, almost 12 years. But I didn't really know how to reciprocate it at all due to repression and stuff. Whenever I unlocked my sexuality and was able to actually interact with it, I realized within 2 months that I had a huge crush on him back and decided to test the waters with an FWB kind of thing to make sure we didn't go too fast. And then, a couple of days in, I was already treating him like my boyfriend and saying I loved him. That was almost 2 years ago now. He's the love of my life, and I intend to marry him. There's no one else for me. Story 25. I blew up an entire friend group, hooked up with my childhood female best friend in college a few times, and wanted something more. Turns out she was also hooking up with my male best friend, who was also my college roommate, and pursued something more with him. He got more and more jealous that we had a history, and eventually spread a bunch of despicable rumors and lies about me to our friend group, which blew everyone apart. Years later, now I'm engaged to the woman of my dreams and can't believe I let what happened affect me as much as I did, and they're still together, so I guess everything worked out in the end. Story 26. I slept with my best friend's brother, who was also a really good friend. He cheated on his girlfriend, who happened to be another good friend. It was a drunken night, and I had had a crush on him since we were kids. We tried dating for a while, but when a relationship starts with betrayal, it doesn't usually end up well. He and his ex got back together and had a kid. We haven't spoken in almost 10 years now, and I'm happily married now with a son. I still think about him from time to time, and I still talk with the best friend. Last I heard, he and his wife talked major crap about me, which stings a little but is understandable. Hormones are wild as a teen, and I wish I didn't act upon them. Story 27. We were really close. He was the person I could talk to about everything: school, health, and even about getting intimate. One day we met outside. I needed shampoo, and he came with me. After we bought my shampoo and some coffee, we took a bus to go back home. We were talking about the dresses, and I said, "Why don't you come to my house so I can show you my dresses?" He said okay, and we went to my place. One of my dresses' zippers is really low, so I asked him if he could zip it. He did, and after a couple of minutes, it was time to unzip it. I turned towards him, but instead of getting behind me, he pulled me closer to him and unzipped the zipper while looking at my face. I wasn't in love with him, and he wasn't either, but at that moment we couldn't stop kissing each other. And then we did it. Everything went great, actually. He even did the aftercare, which was awesome because even if it was my first, I felt great, not scared. Then he went home. At night, I couldn't sleep. So I texted him that I was sad, but he kind of didn't care at all. I kept texting him, and he kept ghosting me. After 2 weeks he texted me and said, "Did you get your period?" And I said, "Yeah, I did, just this morning." He said, "Cool," and we never talked. After all these years, after all these memories, we stopped talking. Story 28. She ended up pregnant 6 months later as we kept banging continuously, and she knew that my one big goal in life was to be the best dad ever, due to my past. We were totally in love and past friends before anything happened. She was just in a relationship, and she knew I wouldn't do anything if she was. They broke up for a good reason, and then 3 days later we got together. We're still together, and she's not only my future wife just engaged, she's my best friend still. Even though I have a best friend who is my brother, I never had, but I see him once every year or two, and seeing him makes me happy. But when I see my fiance, after a 2-day break from not seeing her, I look like a kid at Disneyland for the first time. I advise everyone to become really good friends with someone before they're dating, because this has been the easiest and best relationship I've ever been through, and we are perfect for each other, and we knew this before we even kissed. Story 29. It had been preceded by a bunch of makeout sessions while intoxicated, which surprisingly only seemed to make us a little closer. Spent a St. Patrick's Day celebrating and ended up in the garage of her place, where she initiated a kiss per what had happened before, and with both of us being very inebriated, things progressed rapidly from there, with a lot of enthusiasm and excitement from both parties. It was a little tense the next morning, marked with "we should probably talk about last night," and we both agreed it shouldn't have happened, and that was the extent of the conversation. I went home, wildly hungover, and woke up the next day to a message from her telling me it had changed her view of our relationship, and that she wanted to step away from it and cease contact. That was over a decade ago, and there's been one exchange since, with her giving condolences on a loss I had experienced. A short message expressing interest in discussing it again wasn't reciprocated at the time or since. I'd been lying to myself for years and telling myself I didn't love her, but oh man, I sure did. And I felt that loss for a long time and likely still do in some small ways. I hope she's doing well, but I don't have the slightest clue. Story 30. We liked each other on and off for a few years, and finally ended up going out. Things were really nice for a while. Went to Costco, got burgers, stayed up late talking, and planned a trip to California. I felt like something huge in my life was falling into place out of nowhere. One night, we got into a disagreement because she invited me out and kept changing the plans, so I was getting ready to go, then took off my shoes, then got ready again, etc. And I got irritated, and I gave her the silent treatment when I picked her up. I wish I hadn't reacted that way. She was offended by that and started getting really closed off. She ended up going on the California trip with 2 friends, where she was ice cold with me. I couldn't take it, so we went to the beach to talk it out and made up. She started complimenting me around the other 2, and she slept on my arm on the plane ride home. Texting once we were back home started slowing down again. I messaged her asking if we could be friends again and haven't talked since, about 4 years ago now. I would easily give away sleeping together to have my friend back. Story 31. We don't talk anymore. We went from talking daily, then things got serious one night after a party. Went from sleeping together to dating briefly, but she had some unfinished business with her ex. We broke up so she could have some time to figure out what she wanted, and we talk on the phone occasionally to check in like we used to as friends, but you could tell there was a weird feeling in the air. One day, we stopped calling and haven't talked in 5 years. I do still think about her on occasion, since we were friends long before we tried to date. And I hear about her in conversation with our mutual friends, but I only think of her as a friend. I actually met an amazing woman in college, and we got married last October, and we have 3 cats. Story 32. I had a very hard time getting over her. I was incredibly depressed, lost, and morbid for months after. We tried to continue our friendship, but it wasn't healthy for me to be around her. I still felt jealous, and felt a toxic sense of joy when things went wrong for her. 4 years on, we are now very good friends again. There is very firm boundaries in place, as I have a long-term partner, but we have both apologized and forgiven each other for how things worked out. Having space from each other was the best way to heal, and we can now have a healthy friendship. Story 33. Broke up for reasons beyond our control. It really sucks losing your boyfriend and best friend at the same time. He was the only person who knew me 100% and fully accepted me and my faults, as well as both had similar childhoods and mental illnesses. He was the only person I've ever felt fully at ease with being myself around, and the only person who truly made me feel beautiful and treasured all the time just for being me. As somebody who always has a hard time trusting and connecting with people, it was really hard to lose that, especially when I knew if I just sacrificed a little bit more of myself, we could stay together at least a little longer, but I had given up too much already. And we both knew that. He asked me to take him back 8 months later, on my birthday. I told him I couldn't. I needed to move on. That breakup was the hardest thing I ever went through in my life, up to that point. It took around 3 years for me to finally get over him. We don't talk anymore. Sometimes I still dream of him, or at least the version of him I used to think he was. Story 34. Almost had a three-way with my best friend and our mutual friend. We were a little drunk, and one thing led to another. Anyway, somewhere between hand stuff and making out, it just became apparent there wasn't a very strong spark for everyone, so we went our separate ways. We all checked in on each other the next day and periodically for a couple of weeks after, but then everything just went back to normal. Really, it was just an oopsie, I'm inside you moment that ended up not feeling right, so it wasn't a big deal. Story 35. We tried it. It worked for a little. We both were in college and were immature people who didn't communicate well once we crossed that line and went from best friends to more. So we lasted almost a year, but things blew up. It ended up not working for multiple reasons, and I couldn't handle going back to being just friends with someone I genuinely thought would be my endgame. Back when all I wanted was her, but we were just best friends for years. She wanted to keep the friendship, but for my mental health, I knew we couldn't stay friends. I would never be able to see her date someone after the feelings we shared and the steps we took after crossing the line of best friends. She would reach out from time to time, but I couldn't entertain that. It felt like I had this deep emotional and mental wound that would just reopen at any chance of a connection back with her, but we were done. I couldn't go back, and she could. So, we are less than nothing now. I never responded or reached out. I still won't, because nothing good will come of it. I wish we had never done it now that I know the outcome. But if we hadn't, I would have regretted it my whole life, not seeing if she was going to be my future everything. Try it if you want. Certainly understand the risks of losing a best friend if it doesn't work out. Story 36. I slept with my best friend in college. We had been best friends for a year, and I genuinely never felt anything romantic, but one drunken night, it just sort of happened. We decided to date after, but it just didn't work as a serious relationship. We broke up so many times, but we would miss each other too much and always get back together. Life just didn't feel right without him in it. Finally, after about 3 years, we tried to break up with each other on the same night, and we were so relieved that we ended up getting ice cream and hanging out all night. That was about 12 years ago. And we've stayed super close friends. I even designed his wedding invitations, attended the wedding, and met his baby. If you date your best friend and break up, you don't have to get back together to hang out. You can just be friends, and it's okay. I wish I'd realized that earlier before we hurt each other so many times trying to save something that just didn't work romantically. Story 37. It was after my divorce that I was a complete and total emotional basket case. She knew I needed closeness. We were both attracted to each other, so it wasn't out of pity. I just needed to know women would still find me desirable, and I wasn't useless or worthless. She is an amazing person. We stayed friends. She dated another friend of mine afterwards, and I dated one of her friends. I ended up going to her wedding about 5 years later. We are not friends anymore, sadly, because she has become extremely liberal and doesn't care for my comments about politics in general. I am very middle of the road and hate things about both the left and the right. I miss my old best friend, but it is very possible to sleep together and be friends. It has ruined a friendship or two of mine as well because feelings and jealousy can happen. Story 38. We are still best friends, and as close as ever. We were roommates first, and that's how we became best friends. It just happened that we both knew how to separate deep emotional intimacy from hookup just for fun. We both knew that we weren't each other's type, but we were both interested in exploring with each other. She eventually found a boyfriend and moved out. I was sad when she left, not because of the fun times, but because I wouldn't be living with my best friend anymore, but that didn't affect our friendship with each other at all. As I said, we are probably closer than ever, and I even found a partner a few months later. I know both partners initially had doubts, but they both now understand, but there's no chance we would sleep together again, because infidelity is a big thing for both of us. I can't say if the respective partners still harbor a bit of jealousy, and I wouldn't blame them if they do. One would even be surprised that we were sleeping together because we come from such different cultures and met in Europe. So, it is possible for things to end well, but I don't think it's common. Story 39. I was friends with a girl at school and we were pretty close after 2 years. Hung out pretty much every day and ate lunch together after school, you get the idea. Out of nowhere she started sending me these TikToks that implied she had an interest. Well, why not? We went on a date near her university. We got high and hooked up. The next morning we watched a movie and she even cooked for us. Everything was good and I went home. A day later she started ghosting me a bit for a week until finally calling me and telling me over the phone that it was a mistake and she wants to be friends again. I told her I'll think about it. Hung up the phone. The next day I texted her that I can't imagine being friends with her again, not after, well, it felt weird to me. So I told her, no, I can't be friends with you. Not long after, I was blocked from all her socials, and I still am. This happened about 3 years ago now. What did I learn? Never hook up with a friend unless you don't care too much about potentially losing said friendship. Story 40. She hates it when I call her my first wife. She retorts, be careful, or I'll call you my late husband. We laugh. The biggest thing to realize in this situation is that people feel at different speeds, but feelings are fast when they occur internally. So, while one friend transforms from platonic to romantic love, the other may still only be platonic. I ended a few friendships after high school, revealing that I had romantic feelings for them. I was an idiot without boundaries and very little emotional intelligence. Had I made an effort, we probably could have stayed friends. But I just let that be one of the final conversations we ever had. I look back with regret, not because I wanted more but because I cut off healing and closure, ghosted myself and them. Overall, the trick is to find someone who has a crush on you, then marry them and become best friends. Sequence is not important as long as you commit to the relationship after 5 years of being reminded to propose by all your closest friends. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update.